Hello and welcome to The Real Deal, a Real Madrid podcast with me, Jarod Hector, joined by my guy, Loconte. What's up, Loconte?
Yo, what's up? Been a while.
It has been a while, international break. Let me let you guys into a little bit of this behind the scenes. And thank you all for tuning in live, by the way. Please remember to like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel so that you get all the updates of when we go live. And if you only want the audio version, you want to listen back to it later, we're also available on Apple Podcast and Spotify. So, we're coming out of the international break, and I'm like, Loconte, all right, we're going to do the Friday shows now. I got some ideas, some interesting questions to ask you, right? Everything's, not necessarily like puppy dogs and ice cream, but I'm like, it's going to be a nice way to ease back in. We got Sociedad Saturday or whatever. I go into our little private chat today. Loconte goes, yeah, bro, Rudiger out 3 months. We got to talk about that first. I go, I'm sorry, what? What did you say happened? Who is out for what? And yes, here we are. Fucking Rudiger out for 3 months. And Loconte, injuries are not a maybe or a are they. Injuries are a certainty. The only thing we don't know is who, when, and how long, but they're going to happen. That's just how professional sports works. And sure enough, Antonio Rudiger is going to be out for 3 months. That is a large chunk of the season. He is, Loconte, our third choice senior center back. So right now, that means people below him have to move up a slot, and that creates a lot of problems. So let's first start with who and what are the available options for Xabi Alonso to take the third spot as our starting as our third string center back.
If this was the Ancelotti era, then we could have just said Germany is going back to center back, but that's not the case anymore. So it's a lot harder to digest on what's going to do. The issue with Rudiger going is not even his performances, that they were good. You have already mentioned that he was rushed back. On Club World Cup, he came back way too early post-surgery. But the bigger problem was that he never looked himself again, even last season. Like, this is stemming from last season. Him playing the whole season injured, his performances were not up to the par or up to the standard that we wanted them to be, but he still was the guy to ease Militao in, who was somebody that Alonso spoke highly today on the press conference, on his recovery, on the fact that he's coming back from really two major injuries, being two ACLs in each of the knees, which is something remarkable that he's even playing this soon at this level. But Rudiger was that cushion to allow Militao to recover at a good pace. And now that's gone, ultimately. So now you're left with, on the squad right now, on the first team, not counting the Real Madrid Castilla, I would say you're left with two options, really. You move Huijsen to right center back and you play David Alaba, or you trust Asensio to grow out the pains of mistakes that we have seen him make over and over and over again. Of course, there's Juan Martin, another ACL player who's just returning and coming back with the youth team. So there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the center back position generally.
Lots to unpack there. I want to just for everybody to know that the Rudiger injury, it is tied to what he got injured for last season, and it is the quadriceps and thigh area. And you know anything about the quadriceps and thighs, that is a tricky area to manage. And when you rush back too soon, this is what you get. Loconte mentioned he was not up to par last season because he played injured all season. That is true. I would argue 2 seasons ago when we won the double, you could make the argument Rudiger was among the best center backs in the world. If
top
not,
3 at worst.
Right, at worst, top 3. And that is what we expected. But the problem is, and this is now the domino effect, when you play someone every match full 90s plus his national team duties every match full 90s, this is the next logical conclusion. Injuries are going to happen. That player is now hurt. That player rushes themselves to come back. They hurt themselves again, right? And so who knows? Three months is probably optimistic, and that already puts us in November, December. He's not going to be ready to be playing full 90s in the middle of Champions League, and right. So, not to mention it's a World Cup year, which he's going to want to play for. So, we mentioned what do we do? I agree with Loconte. Xabi Alonso is not going to drop Tchouaméni back into center back because that is our one and only holding midfielder, which we will get to later on in the show.
Later on, yeah.
So now, to your point, it has to be Raul Asensio, someone who Xabi clearly doesn't trust because of the mistakes he's making. Well, going to have to start earning some trust and playing him. You also mentioned Militao, but here is the domino effect of that. Militao himself, as you mentioned, coming off his own 2 surgeries. So if you play him now because we have no choice more than you want to, what's going to happen to him? Same thing again. He's going to play too many minutes, and then at the middle or end of this season, he's going to get hurt. And we're going to be even shorter at center back. Yes. And not to mention, I know he's young, but it doesn't matter. Dean Huijsen has played every match for us, full 90s. He's played every match for Spain, full 90s. Yes. That is also a problem. Where is he going to get the rest from? So it's going to have to be trusting some Castilla players, and it's going to have to be Alaba and Asensio are going to have to get minutes. There's no other option.
I mean, there's a wild card of Carvajal, which we had some tendencies of going to when
who's also coming off his own injuries.
Which happened to us a lot, by the way. Carvajal played like against Chelsea in 2021-22 as a center back, and Lucas was the right back for us to close that game out. So it's not out of ordinary, really, for us to see these things shift. But normally, in most cases, this like worst case scenario that could turn into a good scenario given Rudiger's performances. Even with Germany, like he did show on the international break that this is not a system problem. This is not a problem where he's struggling to fit in. This is a clear decline moment for him.
Right. He's not healthy.
Now, does the injury tie up to Rudiger's personality a little bit? Rushing himself back, maybe not telling the medical staff that he's feeling pain because he's eager to play. At least if we know Rudiger for one thing, we know that he's a warrior out there and just does not give up. Even against Barca, when he clearly popped, like his muscles popped in that game, he was still pushing to play until like his body just told him, dude, we can't. I just can't anymore.
Yeah.
And this could be his part of personality trait and that warrior side of the player that we signed, which could have come to hurt him, bite him, but ultimately it's a squad short on that position.
Well, it's the blessing and the curse, right, Loconte? Often your greatest strength is often your greatest weakness. That warrior mentality, which makes him so good, which we said 2 years ago, at worst, top 3 center back in the world, that same thing and that willing to die out there attitude is also what causes him to, right? Maybe I'm coming back sooner than I should. This is the yin and the yang.
It's also sad that all of this health went away for last season, which was a disoriented squad, a disoriented strategy, no real solution, and it literally threw away the health of one of the key pieces of the team that won the Champions League because Rudiger was so good.
He was key, crucial.
It's easy now to look back on last season and be like, doable. 2 seasons ago, if you told somebody that Rudiger is out, they would freak out because he was that damn good. Rudiger allowed an unbalanced team to look balanced due to how many heroics he did as a defender in an unstable environment, I want to say, at the very least defensively. So, it's just a curse that is having to go through this last season being like that catalyst of it makes it even worse. No trophies in the end, really, no real results to show for. Just a team that was lost, and the guy lost his health due to that. So I don't know how Xabi is going to navigate through this because it's a very lengthy injury. It's not an injury where you can just go like, might come back soon.
Right.
As is in the case of somebody that we're going to talk later for Jude, right?
Right.
That's a shoulder surgery.
Right.
It's very different. He's using a lot less of that muscle on a football field than your muscle.
Yes. Right.
So it's not the same type of injury where you can have at least hopes that he comes back the same. As we said, he's expected to be out for 3 months. Naturally, you kind of count 4 because ease him back in, rehab. We don't know how that's going to go because Madrid have not announced a date. The date is just based on the newspapers and what is really being said by the club, not officially, but to the journalists. So the club expects him to be out for 3 months. But the official statement says that, well, we're going to monitor how he's going to develop on the recovery.
And the 3 months, to your point, even if that's optimistic, setbacks happen in recovery. That happened to a player we're going to talk about shortly on this squad, right? Just recently. Yeah. So look, we know that Madrid typically does not like to make January transfer moves. That's just not the club's stated position usually. Do you think because of Xabi's influence that he's going to say, look, man, we got Castilla guys. We got to, and not necessarily a Konate or anybody big, but we got to do something. I need another able body who can be up here at the senior level.
I would like if I said that I could see the club being like, yes, here's your signing. Mm-hmm. I think that they're dead set. They had an opportunity with Konate, probably, but as we had spoken, if Rodrigo doesn't get sold, then no more moves were going to happen. Right. Just knowing how the club operates, that didn't happen. Rodrigo is not being moved in January either. I wouldn't expect so. It would be a real shock if he gets moved.
Right.
Therefore, then you go into what center back are we going to sign? Is that center back going to really be an upgrade over what we currently have at the club?
Right.
Top clubs aren't going to want to negotiate with you for their players. Like we could say somebody like Ibrahima Konate, for example, who is already very clearly heading to Madrid next summer on a free transfer. Mm-hmm. You could go to Liverpool and be like, hey, look, 6 months before, here's 20, 25 million. Mm-hmm. I want to sign him now because he will be a starter / a key piece to the team. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But is that realistically going to happen? No. I think that they're dead set on this, and they're pretty much just going to tell him, we're paying you the wages, you have this contract, it's now up to you to solve it.
A name that someone dropped in the chat, Grace Kelmich, Mark Gahey, option for January. I know his name was mentioned around from Crystal Palace over the summer.
Yeah, that's too expensive. First, not on the club's radar. Second, and third, Gahey would probably have to move to Liverpool so they could facilitate Konate to Madrid. Like that's kind of because the deal collapsed with Gahey. I think that Liverpool's plan was, okay, we're going to sign Gahey, bench Konate, just tell him that, here's your replacement, sit there if you want to go for free, or Konate would have been available in January. Mm-hmm. Again, I still don't know, but I don't see the club paying money in January unless the team looks far and above the best in the world, which is not out of realm of possibilities given the group and the players.
Right,
but they would have, just to draw the lines, right? Lakers, for example, this season. They're saying they're going to be aggressive, but they're also going to monitor where they are on the standings in basketball. They're not just going to throw all the chips at Andrew Wiggins, as example, who's a player that's linked to them. Like Wiggins is basically Konate for Madrid, if we really want to put the realm. He's a needed player. Everybody can tell that he's a needed player to complete the piece of the puzzle, but it's about the timing. It's about, are we willing to sacrifice these assets that we have right now, or are we going to navigate with the things better later on? Yeah. For example, if Lakers are not successful on this period from NBA start to the trading deadline, then they're not going to move for any player really, and they're going to preserve their assets and go again next year. Madrid, in this case, would have to look above and beyond the best club. It's not just about competing here, because Madrid, unlike Lakers, are kind of seen as cream of the crop at the moment. Like they're not we're competing for the 4th seed. We're competing to win the Champions League.
Right, correct.
Type of club. So for Madrid, they would genuinely have to see a golden opportunity to move for the transfer. Right. So I'm not really positive on that.
Yeah, I think the if you want to call it the silver lining is we get to see, and Xabi has not been shy about this, saying that he would work more with Castilla. We know his best friend's coaching the squad now. We're going to see Juan Martinez. We're going to see Aguado. We're going to see these guys come up. That is the only option we have, right? We're not going to go out and get anybody who exists within our system that we can bring up and call up to the big show. And I think that's going to be the route they're going to go. And maybe, look, remember, guys, last year it worked, right? Ancelotti had no choice. He was forced to and Asensio looked great for about, I don't know, 6-7 months, right? So maybe you catch lightning in a bottle again, and we have someone look great for a few months.
Because also, like, we were so vulnerable,
Well,
and the
yes.
fact that anything good that happened there was just going to look like unprecedentedly good. So look, I don't want to say that to people that lose all the hope because Rudiger is gone. You never know. Asensio is young. He's on the first year with the first team, and there are growing pains, which were the mistakes. We don't know how much he's learned because he hasn't seen a minute since. That's not a good sign overall because he hasn't seen a minute. But also we have to remember that our games have been pretty tight on margins, and football being a low-scoring sport, the coaches will not always take the bold decision to just bring guys in that could be ticking bombs. But Asensio might play on the Champions League this next midweek, and he might look great. And there's your spot. Or maybe one more team, yes, an ACL, we don't know, but Ancelotti trusted him on the first preseason game.
Sure did.
Said big things in my eyes, because Ancelotti is not a trustless youngster type of coach. He would rather, as we spoke, play Tchouaméni at center back than play any other youngster. So with that guy getting that opportunity, there were definitely some things that he has seen to believe in him being able to grow. Like, the kid was 17. I think he's 18 this year. So we have to see how he develops. Like, I don't have hopes for Alaba. We spoke before the international break. That Alaba,
he did not look good for Austria.
He's actually good, but he didn't look anything really. Like, he didn't look.
But like, maybe that's the start of him knocking off some rust, and maybe some more minutes in games we have in hand will help him get a little bit better, and then maybe by November we can start to count on him. Maybe, I don't know.
Given the schedule, it's very hard to count on a guy that might be on and off because of the age and the injuries. And I think that it was unfortunate events that I was praying kind of Inzaghi would take him to Al Hilal due to that 3 at back, and he would have been like a perfect left center back for him. And Huijsen, on my books leading to the season, Alaba was his replacement on paper in terms of ball playing and just dominant. But now we're running into troubles because mitigating Militao's minutes is a must. But also we can't keep landing Huijsen every single minute of every single game because he's going to break.
This is the domino effect that I talked about. This is it. It's not just Rudiger that's the problem. It is now Militao's going to have to play more than he wants to. It's now Huijsen that's going to have to play more than he wants to. And by the way, shout out to that YouTuber who's told us, Dean told you how to pronounce it. It's Huijsen, Dean Huijsen. So we don't want him playing that much. And we already said Alaba, we don't know, right? So it creates this situation whereby now we are forced to do things we maybe not want to do. Look, Asensio's young. He's made mistakes. We know that, but it's going to have to be, hey, man, we got to figure out a way to mitigate that because you have to play, right? Like we need you, and we need you to be better than you have been towards the end of last season and during the Club World Cup. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I want to stay on these players, Loconte, who play a ton of minutes for us and play a ton of minutes for their national teams. Arda Güler, Aurelien Tchouaméni, Fede Valverde. We mentioned Dean Huijsen. All of these players have played every single minute for Madrid, and they played just about every full 90 for their clubs or for their national teams. The only one who didn't play a full 90 in his second match was Tchouaméni because he got a red card. And I wonder, did he get that red card to get himself some forced rest? Because Jesus, when are any of these guys going to get rest? Where do you see? That's the question I have for you. Where do you see any of the players I mentioned getting any rest?
This is going to sound crazy, but it's the Champions League. Literally. It's going to sound crazy, but it's the Champions League. We start with Marseille, all respects to them, but you can play the main guys there. You can play Mbappe, you can play Arda, you can... we'll get into those, but Tchouaméni would have been a golden opportunity to rest. Huijsen, Carreras probably getting some rest too, even though Carreras didn't go with the national team, thankfully, this time around.
Thank God.
He's somebody that you have to be careful with too. And we got lucky with Trent. Carvajal just got a trip with the Spain. I don't know why he got called up. Like, it was kind of like a petty, I don't want to leave him on your training ground. Why?
De La Fuente, what a jerk.
Why do that? But
well, we know why, because he's anti-Real Madrid. We know. We know.
But for the most part, right? Like the defense is just very thin. It looked from the beginning. It's thinner than the midfield. I know that we have spoken about the midfield a lot. The defense was always thinner. Always. Look, did we get lucky with Carvalho looking the way how he does? Yes, but that's lucky. I wouldn't say that that's something that's very normal. At the very least, that's how I say it. Because Carvalho came back and he just looks ready as a starter. That's not very normal given his age, injury, millage. So I don't know.
That'll be helpful for us in terms of a Trent and Carvajal rotation. So that's nice. We have no date on Mendy yet, so we don't know. But we have Fran. Fran's healthy, so if we can get Fran in there. I think you're right. Marseille is a team that we should be able to beat without our main guys and get 3 points. Now the question is, let's go to Tchouaméni. He would have been someone who had gotten rest because Eduardo Camavinga was set to be back this Saturday against Real Sociedad. However, he suffered a setback in his recovery, and he is now not ready for Saturday versus Sociedad. And
yes,
again,
Alonso confirmed today that he's on the same pace as Jude.
Oh, meaning recovery timeline?
Yes.
Oh,
Alonso
wow.
He's on the same pace as Jude.
That's even further back because he's supposed to be back tomorrow, which is the 12th. Jude's not back till October. That's another month away. Wow.
I mean, we don't know because Jude is training with the team already. So Jude's timeline might be a little bit like...
Well, okay. I know he wants to, but I think the team is not going to rush him, right? They're probably like, because we can't afford any...
There's an interpretation to Alonso's words, right? Him saying Camavinga and Jude are basically on the same track doesn't necessarily mean that Jude comes back and Camavinga is there playing with him. What that means is that when they're fit together. Therefore, do they rush Jude, given the rust, given the lack of everything really that's come with him? Well, maybe not. And Jude takes a game or two more of a rest than Camavinga, but the pace is rather similar. What I think, this is my theory, is that Alonso is treating all of these... Sorry, guys, but Ancelotti has kind of ruined their physical levels. Like, that's the truth here. Like, we're hearing Vinicius. He just had the best training session in years. What's coming? Therefore, you kind of know that the training level before just wasn't up to the standard. So what I think Alonso is doing here is basically trying to rehab every single little player on the team that has issues. Like Endrick got injured while La Liga last season was still on. Yeah. He hasn't been training with the group since. Yeah. So this is a rehab for me. This is more like, okay, I need to squeeze out results while making sure that once these guys are back, they're back for real. And they're not back to go away again. It's kind of same as Rudiger was. Yeah. Rudiger might have been an even bigger lesson. I think that they knew that some of the things were happening with him, but not to this extent, clearly.
Yeah.
But Camavinga feels like a rehab stage where, okay, we need to get everything right. What's bugging you? Let's work together. Let's see. Okay, pain here, we're going to fix that.
Yeah.
Pain there, we're going to fix that. You're not going on the pitch without being fully healthy.
Yeah.
By that point, though, you kind of remove the minutes millage excuse. It's not an excuse, but I don't know what word do you really use.
No,
you don't have a millage anymore in your legs. We recovered you fully, so now we expect you to get up to the gear. Them coming and training with a group is a good sign because that means Alonso wants them integrated with the tactical schemes and what he wants them to do. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to play. Right. It just means that Alonso is gearing them up tactically for what the team is going to do. But
one of the
fully healthy. Hendrick is going through the same process.
Yeah. One of the big things to watch is, as we mentioned, this period right now that we're in after coming out of the international break, we have 7 matches in 21 days. 21 right. Days. That is basically a match every 3 days we're playing, right? It is a lot of football. And so the rest is going to be key so that guys don't break. Now, one of our big problems is that one of our biggest matches, Atleti, is on the 27th. And what you don't want, because people, Grace Kemlich in the chat asking, we need Jude for Atletico. I'm sure we need Camavinga for Atletico. I agree. But you cannot bring those guys back for their first match against opposition being that game. That can't be game one. You need to ramp up before an intense game like that. And I don't know if there's going to be enough time for them to get the ramp up in a match before that.
Normally, you would have hoped that would have been Marseille,
right?
Their game back.
Or Sociedad this weekend for Camavinga, right? Which it was supposed to be.
Sociedad was actually looked to be Camavinga. They just went like, okay, he's injured. He doesn't go with French national team to spend 10 days there and play 10 minutes. So we're keeping him here. He's unfit. But again, doesn't look like he has fully recovered. They're not rushing.
Yeah.
Could Camavinga play against Marseille? Maybe. We don't know because those timelines are a little bit more skewed. It's much harder to read now with Alonso than it was with Ancelotti. Once these guys were back with the group, you just knew that they were going to be in the squad next game. For the past 2 days, we have gotten pictures of Jude with the team, Camavinga with the team. And normally, as we're used to, you assume that at least Camavinga was going to be with the team on Sociedad. 10 minutes maybe, 5. Just get there, get your running a little bit, get your feel for the ball, get the ball, and just see how it is again.
Yep.
But no, he's out.
Yeah.
And we added Rudiger to the injury list on top of everything else.
Yeah.
Shortening in the squad even further.
We mentioned those players, Loconte, Arda, Tchouaméni, Housen, Valverde. Now, you and I talked about on previous show that there's no like for like substitution, right? Just doesn't exist. So with that being said, the way I see it is that if Xavi's going to rotate, that just means that it's going to look, the squad is going to look a little different, right? That's all, just because the profiles we don't have any like for like substitutions. So assuming a world where Camavinga's healthy, Jude's healthy, whatever, right? Like if Jude being healthy, is that where you get Arda to get a rest? If Camavinga is healthy, is that where you get Tchouaméni to get a rest? Like, is that those? And we have a player who has been training with the first team since, I want to say, the beginning of the season. He hasn't played a game yet from Castilla, and that's Thiago Pitarch. I don't know if he's not ready or what, but again, we're not going to go find some magical midfielder and create him from dust. We have who we have. So is that someone who can play? And we got to figure out, okay, we're going to look a little different than how we look with these guys in.
It's hard to say, right? It's just hard to say. He's turned into Ceballos. That's the reality. Every closing game, he's turned into Ceballos. Think like for like, if you're not playing Valverde and Tchouaméni in one game, let's say Marseille, right? Let's just say in a perfect world, Camavinga is fit for Marseille. He can start all of that. Camavinga on this setup is really a Valverde replacement. He's not natural, as we said. There's no like for like. There isn't going to be a second Valverde, but he's the player to give Valverde the rest, but who can also play alongside Valverde. So Camavinga should be that guy. Naturally, Tchouaméni has taken more of a role of like a leader, a mover, a player that kind of dictates without really having the ball, because he's moving on the way how the team wants to move. He moves high up, you see a very high line. He's dropping down, you see the lines are getting closer to one another because that's how Alonso has instructed the team.
Yeah.
So with that, naturally, the most, feel bad for saying this, but tactically astute midfielder that there is Ceballos. So normally you would pair Ceballos and Camavinga and you would make up with it with a more athletic team, which would kind of mean like Franco and Jude, and then you would get an Mbappe and Vini probably to have the highest level possible of athleticism to make up for some of the shortcomings that are going to come with that sort of lineup.
Yeah.
But you need to cover all the base, right? Normally, you don't rotate the whole 11 immediately. You want player for player. But again, we're facing the issue. Valverde played 180 minutes with Uruguay. And he's the guy that has suffered the most, because not only that did he look sluggish on the opening games, coming from that injury back to playing every minute or close to every minute.
Yep.
He then travels the most to South America to play 180 minutes as The worst part out of this all with Uruguay is that his coach is Marcelo Bielsa, known for abusing players physically.
Yeah.
No, like if there is something that he's known for, is the fact that he abuses players physically. He's very run type of coach.
And we mentioned with Rudiger how his blessing and his curse is his warrior mentality. It's similar for Fede, right? Fede is every coach's dream because he will never tell you no. Yes, coach, whatever you want, I'm doing it. As opposed to, I'm not. I'm exhausted. I need a rest. He will never say
that. Can I rest this game? Maybe it would be good for my health. Valverde's on that.
Yeah, he will never say that.
Yes. So, again, like it's 88th minute of our last La Liga game against Mallorca. I was rewatching it, and it's Valverde pressing and winning the ball back, leading us to a chance. Yes, his performances overall have left a lot to be desired, but it's also worth acknowledging just how important he is to this team and his profile is in general, and how rare it is to begin with. So if you lose Valverde for an extended period of time, and for me, an extended period of time with Valverde is like 2 weeks, and that's too much.
Yeah.
So how are you going to mitigate that in a very short squad? Because the only real profile on the team that can replace him is
Camavinga.
And Camavinga's not fit.
Correct.
So you can't get that. Orda become very important for us, and obviously for Turkey. Played all the minutes available.
Sure did.
Mbappe, all the minutes available. With Mbappe, I was having a discussion with another coach the other day, and he was like, Mbappe is not getting any rest. I went like, there are games every 30 days. He has to. And I actually had forgotten that Gonzalo Garcia had also gone with the national team, but with
under 20s.
And I'm like, holy, so this squad was pretty much had only Rodrigo and Vinicius from the attacking players chilling.
Yeah.
All the rest were on international duties.
Yeah.
Of course, is it beautiful that we got Vinicius on like a 2 weeks break? Yes. Like sign me up for that even more. But that's not going to be a common occurrence. Anyways, it's just like once because he was suspended. Like let's make things real.
Yeah.
I know that we want to make it into Ancelotti did us a favor, but no, Vinicius was suspended.
It was an indirect favor. We'll take it, right? Because it was
like please
Vini, Militao, Rodrigo, all the Brazilians. He left them at home, which is great for them.
Yeah, but you could see from the squad, right? They're qualified. He had already made the promise of using the Brazilians from the Brazilian league, so he wanted to test these guys out.
Right.
This was just once time thing that's not really going to be repeated.
So you're saying they will be called up next break? All of them.
Alonso already called it out. He went like, well, makes sense because he said Militao came back from a big injury. So Ancelotti is definitely testing out the options, and Rodrigo is just coming back to form. Therefore, what he alluded to was there were more Brazilian attackers in form than him that deserve to be ahead. Yeah. And with Vinicius was suspended. Like it was not any favor, rather than it was just a cautionary decision for Ancelotti knowing how to take the team forward, thinking about the World Cup next year. So
let's talk about Vinicius, Loconte. You mentioned that during this time off, he got rest. Xabi gave the players 4 or 5 days off. You saw the pictures. Jude was on some yacht and I don't know, some fancy place, and guys had a break.
All the pictures released,
right? Vinny was off too, but he also got a lot of one-on-one attention with Xabi during this break. What do you know about that, and what do you think that means for Vinicius going forward?
I mean, from the reports, what's really out there right now, as it currently stands, is that this was the best that Vinicius has been in a long while. So in a long while, that pretty much means since 2021-22, given the minute millage and the lack of rest and him dealing with those niggling hamstring injuries that came due to the minutes load and the carry load that he had to do throughout that process. So normally, this is where also something very important there was the fact that he feels more mentally at peace. It's not just physically is better, he feels more at peace mentally, which is huge. right? We got a good Vinicius on the first 3 games. Not on the first one, but on the second one, came off the bench, goal, assist. Third one, again, he just does Vinicius things, right? On both, in 2 goals, he won the ball back, and he was pressing, he was doing all of that. But there still was something missing, right? We could tell. It felt kind of like the joy of the game just wasn't there for him at all times. That's not the player that we know. I want that riled up player, not in a bad way. Right. I want the guy that goes to the fans and just tells them, start cheering, scores a goal, puts his shirt up and points to the badge, dances when he scores. I want that joy from Vinicius again. And the reports are that he's back on that. It's more of like, probably, I imagine, they've had sit-downs with the coach. And they have just talked about the role, the understanding, knowing what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done. Keep in mind, this is now taking Vinicius completely off. He's like one of the highest suffering players. And I had him to be like the most improved in terms of like the player that's going to shine the most and benefit the most from Alonso. But he was going to be the player to have the hardest role because not everything is running through him anymore. It's more of like a team coordinated thing. So he has to adjust to that. He has to adjust to the team. He has to adjust to the pace. And all of these things need to come with a sense of good physical levels because, well, when the body's gone, mind is kind of gone too. You know, that saying, fatigue leads to bad decisions. Fatigue being gone, important. 14 days of preseason for him. Last season, he came back very late for like 2 games, and he looked very rusty.
And then, of course, the disappointment of the Ballon d'Or, right? Like that put a mental strain for sure, right? So it's
for sure.
It's everything all at once, right? And then I think, of course, which never goes away, right? That's every week at every stadium, right? Away stadium,
right? He's coming onto the pitch, and they're booing him. Bro, you haven't been on the top flight since 2012. Vinicius was a kid there. You were on brink of bankruptcy, literally. Like, what are we doing here? Like, for real? Like, you know, it's the sort of level that we should probably talk also about the Mbappe's interview after the French national team game.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Football is a very cruel sport. And Vinicius is kind of like the front runner of how cruel the sport can be.
Yeah, for sure.
Dealing with racism. Dealing with all of that hate.
What he deals with on a weekly basis around La Liga specifically is just how he manages it. Like, he is mentally stronger than, I mean, that is the ability to tune that out and be like, all right, I'm going to score, shut you guys up. Like, it's incredible because you see, I mean, you don't have to look hard. You can hear them. And when the cameras occasionally pan, you can see, especially the ultra section, you can see the vitriol with which these people are going at Vinny. And it is a lot, man. It is a lot. You mentioned that in terms of rotation, that Marseille is a likely game because we should beat Marseille, right? Yes. I will say Sociedad is not really on form so far this La Liga season. But okay, all right. Tell us more. Tell us more.
So basically, like Sociedad definitely, like new coach, adjusting, have lost Zubimendi, that kind of on that rebuild stage of yes, we can do without Europe this season. So getting 3 points week in and out is not really a goal for them. Lost Merino a year before, then Zubimendi. Probably going to lose Kubo if things continue this way. Bryce Mendes is on the list to be lost as things go, right? Given the La Liga structural wages, they're probably in a rebuild mode right now. And they're going to even have to nail the coach, which we don't know if they have or not. From the performances, no. But we don't know how they internally feel. But that being said, there are stadiums in La Liga especially where you just don't want to play, right? It's just El Sadar, it's Anoeta, there are way too many that are very tricky, which I would have to name one by one, right? And I would rather play in Barcelona away than some of the stadiums. Like, that's my real stance, because teams like Celta, when we beat them away, or San Mames, when we beat Athletic Club, those are the stadiums that I really don't want to go. I know that Sevilla are not good, but still, the idea of playing at Sanchez Pizjuan has a mental toll on me, and I believe the players, because historically it's a hard club. Valencia can be shit for the whole season and just turn up for that game at Mestalla and just beat you, which happened to us. We don't really know. Like, if it's a club like Girona, they had an impeccable season just 2 years ago. Now on brink of relegation, looking the most likely to be a relegated team. Like, that's not the stadium where you go away and you're like, oh, we're back here. But if you're playing at Anoeta, it doesn't matter what's going on. You don't want to. You want to avoid that. So you take it with 100% of focus. So if I had to pick a game in which I'm rotating and I'm giving players rest, is definitely Marseille. I think that the new Champions League format, I don't really like it, gives you time to recover. Gives you just enough time. Even if something goes wrong, gives you just enough to recover to make it to that top 8. So you don't have to play those playing games, I guess they're calling them.
Yes, the playoffs.
We didn't do well. But we still made the quarterfinals, right? Beat City on the way. It's not that Champions League games now, especially in groups. Do we call this a group stage? What?
No, league. It's the league. It's the league phase. The league phase.
Yeah, the league phase, right? It's just off all over the place. Too many games being added. Too much traveling. By the way, we travel 1,000 miles, I believe, before we play Atleti.
Yep.
Too much traveling being added. Too many teams that, no disrespect, but shouldn't really be there. They're just there as participants that I feel bad for. And it's great they're getting a chance to make more money, but it's coming at the expense
of the players.
More games, having more travel. All of this, for me, I most certainly agree with the fact that Champions League right now, at least before the international break, where we stand right now, ending it with Atleti, is where you rest the players. And
that first match of the league phase is against Marseille at home, right? At the Bernabeu.
Yes.
So, to Loconte's point, like a home match against a French side, Liga, of course, they're in the top flight.
It's a good team, but not cream of the crop.
Right. That should be a squad that, again, you take no opponent lightly, because you see what happens. You take them lightly, you will lose. Because as we know, Madrid is the biggest match on every club's list every year. I don't care what they say. Real Madrid's on their calendar. That is the biggest match of the season for them. And so we get typically everyone's best shot, right? And so
they played tonight. What I saw before we went live, they were winning 3-0. I would assume that there were quite a few substitutions. So they have a day rest immediately.
Yeah.
And they were playing at home. We play away. It's just, we have Rodrigo now, right? For all the flag that I've given Rodrigo, I think he will be a useful part going forward. I just didn't agree with the notion that he was going to be a starter.
Right.
But because he's here, he now has to show his talent. He now has to show that he's made more. Get on the waiting room, lift a little bit, get stronger. Just give up on that gimmick that you're quick, get stronger, bulk up, use your technical skills. They're not going away. If you have a tiny bit more muscles, you can be shrugged off that easily. Work on that. This is your perfect opportunity, really, because you're not essentially a starter. You're more of like, okay, Vinicius needs to rest, I go in. Mbappe needs to rest, I go in, because he fills that profile role that would naturally make sense to have on the field. So Rodrigo is at a process where he has to transcend as a player if he wants to remain at the club longer term, if that's his goal. So he's somebody that you call upon immediately against Marseille. He's probably your first name on the team sheet, and then you jiggle between profiles who fits. Normally, you probably start that game with 3 attackers. You give Gonzalo his run. You give Vinicius. I mean, we spoke about his rest. Probably don't play Vinicius the full 90 minutes, but you give Vinicius the start and you give Rodrigo a little bit more freedom to roam around. Rodrigo could be like more of your the replacement for that game if we really want to go in that direction.
Yeah. You mentioned obviously Endrick is on track to be back sometime this month, I believe.
It's within the month, no days specified.
We talked about Jude. We talked about Kamavinga. Those guys are working their way back. We got some questions from some listeners around the international break, and I thought, given that we talked about Vinny and how he developed, I thought this question was good. We answered most of it, but if we can put a finer point on it, what's the ideal strategy for managing players left behind during international break? Give them rests, work on weaknesses, work on physique, arrange friendlies behind closed doors to keep them ready, etc., etc. And as with most things, Loconte, it's not one thing. It's all the things, right? It's a little bit of everything, right? Yes, you give them rest, as Xabi did. 4 days off. All right, guys, I'll see you on Monday. Take off, right? So they can recharge, get away from football. And you mentioned Mbappe, and we'll talk about his comments because he talks about that, right? Like, his passion for the game is what saves him, because the actual culture of football himself, he's like, I'm pretty fatalistic about it, right? Yeah. And so I think you do a little bit of everything. Maybe you do some behind closed doors friendlies, because we did that, right? And then Vinny scored twice in that behind closed doors match or whatever. So
against Castilla, yes.
Part of him feeling well. So you do that for sure, because you can't just sit down and eat chips all day and do nothing, right? You can't do that. So you have to be healthy and do and active and working out. But it's a little bit of everything to get the best out of them when everything, and keep them sharp.
And there's also rust being built up. Something to remember, right? It's 2 weeks basically of non-football activities. Therefore, they organize these little inside friendlies, if we want to call them, just to get them off the gear and have them ready to go. Not let rust settle in, because as we have learned, rust can sometimes take a very long time to go off, and that's not what you want. And you also don't want them to get complacent, because they're getting more time with the coach. Some of the stars are away, and the players can get a little bit more complacent, feel that, okay, like this might be my time. But actually, it's a balance between keep them realistically checking. What I like about Alonso so far, at least from what he tells in our on the press conferences, is the fact that he has told every player the role that they have for the season.
Yep.
Therefore, he's not set in stone with everything, obviously. But there are clear indications to the players that Alonso is more trustworthy, and the players that he deems as more replaceable, which puts a mental load in them, but also creates a healthy competition within the squad that have to do better. For example,
which is what he said.
Fran had a pretty decent Club World Cup, I would say. Scored a goal. He was following the instructions. Hasn't seen the field since. That doesn't mean he's going to continue. That just means that he's going to be awaiting for his chance. And this time around, with a coach like this, he expects you to deliver on his instructions. He's not expecting you to be some sort of world beater. He's not telling you that I want you to be 10 players on the field and score the goal. No, he's just telling you this is what you have to do and this is what you have to follow. And if they do that, for the most part, then they're good. They're going to see the minutes. Mistakes are going to be mitigated. They're still humans. Even with somebody like Huijsen, you can tell that as perfect as he looks, there are still mistakes and some around to his game. But those can go away. But are your good traits and abilities mitigating those problems that you bring? And for example, Trent, we can say he's a little bit less athletic as a right back, right? But when you see him playing the same pass 3 times against a defense that has seen it, and he's successful all 3 times, that automatically tells you that, yes, his strengths do indeed overshadow his limitations as a player. Same can be said about anybody, like Vinicius. Yes, he'll take some rash decisions where maybe he's going to take a shot that he shouldn't, which is the goal that he scored last game. He should not have done that. He had Franco free. But his ability to generate that mitigates the fact that he took that shot that went in this time, but probably doesn't go in a second time. So it's just the qualities, maximization of them, like Arda. We talk a lot about his lack of physicality and him sometimes just not being able to keep up. But what he's bringing is clearly something that Alonso really likes, which is passing that needle thread between the lines, finding the players. It's all about, like, Arda went from, okay, you're going to start from March onwards because team is ran into the ground, to don't fight starter. With another coach. So you didn't have these players. Now these players have come back for like what, 3 days? I think
Yeah.
at most.
Yeah.
They've gotten 3 days of training.
Yeah.
Like there are players like Valverde, for example, who have two. But in case of
Mbappe, Tchouaméni.
actually Mbappe and Tchouaméni came back a day later
A
because
day
the
later.
game was scheduled.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So some players got a little bit more of the training, some less, and you're straight up going to Anoeta. That's why I say it's very tricky for you to rotate and go away from what worked on the previous 3 games.
Yeah.
Because with rotations, as we know, you're going away from some of the principles. You saw that in the second game against Soviet, right? You saw that what you saw in the first game against Osasuna just wasn't there. They were attempting new things. Because it was a new set of players. It was a rotated team. To a certain extent, it was a rotated team.
Yep.
So how is Alonso going to manage all of this? Like, that's really the question. Because those players, a player like Vini, Rodrigo, those players are going to be fresh.
Right.
At bare minimum, these guys are going to be on par with majority of Real Sociedad or Lara.
Carreras will be fresh. Militao will be fresh. Trent will be fresh.
Yeah. But is the rest going to be able to keep up with that? Is the rest going to be able to deal with the fact that Sociedad had like 8 players staying from the starters, while Madrid had 8 starters gone? Yes, there's a big difference or gulf in quality, if we want to say, but those things do matter. It's the small margins of the game.
And they were likely, Sociedad, as we know, preparing all 2 weeks for this match. That's what their focus was. They were tactically locked in on this match coming up.
And there is enough film. Like we say that Alonso has a small sample, which I agree with. There's still enough film on the way how Alonso is playing. So nothing really guarantees you the fact that they're not fully prepared and they're not there going to maybe unleash Oyarzabal, because Oyarzabal is probably going to be the first number 9 that we face who's small. Therefore, you're not facing a team that's going to consistently attack your box with crosses. Rather, they're going to jump in, try to play through you, destroy you on the ground, if that makes sense. So are we going to cope with ground play as well as we did with aerial game? Yes, Murici scored against us, but outside of that, we have been I have already shared the numbers. We are the best defense in La Liga so far, the best attack, the team with the most passes, like all of that. Yes, it's 3 games, it's a very short sample, but it's just what we have to work with right now.
And that's the key right there, right? Is that side of the pitch that Xabi worked so hard to, clearly that was the focus, was defense, out of possession. Does that still hold and maintain with the 2-week break, right? If it does, then we know, okay, we're on the right track and it's fine. The offense is still going to be clunky, all that. Okay, fine. But if we are still dominating possession, winning the ball, but okay, the principles are starting to stick in and becoming more second nature. Okay, we're in good shape. We should be fine. All right. That's
what we're going to go back to pre-Mallorca. Like that's one of the things. Yes, Ashraf, a guy that we work with, shared the data. And Madrid are the highest pressing team in La Liga currently. So is that press going to maintain when the drop-off happens? How hard is it going to happen? Because those numbers are simply unsustainable.
You can't do that.
It's like 1.83. It's just, it's not going to stick like that. We're pressing more than Flick's Barca, and they heavily rely on that. So it's not going to happen. But that's just mitigating the other problems until everything starts to stick together. That could be like the plan for now until Jude and those guys are back, so the team is shuffled better.
Yeah.
But as you said, injuries can happen at any point to any player. So are you really going to hope to have a fully fit, healthy squad at any point during the season? That's too big of a gamble for me, which I don't think Alonso is taking.
No. And as we know, hope is not a strategy, right? You have to have an actual strategic plan in place and not wish and hope that, okay, everybody's healthy, because that's just not reality. We had another question from a YouTuber. With the dominance of the Premier League in mind, I personally cannot see Perez leaving without having created a new European league, which provides income unrivaled by any domestic league. Do you agree?
I mean, he's still in pursuit of Super League, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that realistic at this point? Not anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Champions League kind of became that. The
Mm-hmm.
rules shifted to
Mm-hmm.
that.
There
His
is.
plan, as it currently stands, is just not sustainable anymore. It
Yeah.
made sense at that time,
Right.
but the system changed ever since he brought it up. Can you get rid of the dominance of the Premier League now
Yeah.
in terms
Yeah.
of the market? Because I don't see them dominating purely on football, but in terms of transfers, in terms of bringing in the
And
names,
revenue. Yeah.
Premier League is still going to be like one. First of all, they don't have cap rules like La
Right.
Liga.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, I mean, they do have, but they are. It's kind of like they shouldn't even exist at this point. They do have rules. It's just that those rules just are either not being respected or there's just too big of a gap. Like Sunderland are coming from second
Yeah.
league and they're signing Granit Xhaka for
Oh
the love
yeah.
of God out of Leverkusen, just like that. And it's
The
just like, what the hell is going on?
well, one of the problems and the reasons for this, of course, is the problems going on in La Liga, right? Like it's just a league that seemingly, I mean, this is a podcast for a different day. Tebas does not seem to be interested in making his league financially sound and having true competition top to bottom, like right, like that does not seem to be his focus, and
I
he doesn't seem to be
agree with
wanting to
that.
grow the league and getting younger fans involved. Because none of the moves he makes seems to be geared towards that. Nothing.
Yeah, but just going back to the rules, right? And why La Liga established those rules, clubs were going bankrupt
There were,
if those rules did not exist. So that's why they got implemented on the first place. I inherently agree with the league having those caps, but I think that every league should follow the same path just to keep a level more of like, well, domestical production would be
Yeah.
the right word, like
Yeah,
La
yeah,
Liga
yeah.
does, where you're seeing like Spanish players like your Zubimendis, your Rodgers, all of these players that we're talking about Premier League signing that are actually good there are coming from La Liga. And La Liga prides itself on talent creation, talent development, on the fact that they can work around all of the problems. Like, could they be a little bit less strict? For example, telling Getafe that you have to sell your best center back, otherwise you won't be able to even register your whole squad is just
Terrible.
a bit too much.
Yeah.
But then a team like Barcelona, who abused the cap for so long,
Yeah.
goes again,
Yeah.
and for them to register players now,
Right.
they have had court battles, like
Yeah.
legal battles,
Yeah.
despite those being La Liga only rules. So
Right.
they were always going to win the court battles.
That's the thing, right?
Well,
Yeah.
guess what? It's not abided by law for them to register players, but the league itself has its own separate entities of rules, which they have not respected.
Yeah.
And they've put themselves in that position. So now, are we saying that we get a club like Barcelona, for example, or Sevilla, or like two major examples, that are you really going to want to take them out of this position that they put themselves in?
Right.
Well, other clubs have managed their finances
Yes.
while maintaining to be competitive.
And I think that's
yeah,
that's a fair statement, right? Is that the top a club like Barcelona, first of all, should be punished for all of their miscalculations and wrongdoings, and right, all of that. There should be clear punishment there. Doesn't matter if they're the top club, second top club, like the most popular club or whatever. I don't care. Punish them. Like they flouted the rules. Punish them. What I want to prevent from happening is what you said, which is La Liga just becoming basically the minor league system of the Premier League. All right, you develop your wares over here, and then don't worry, we'll splash you all the money, and you're going to come here and play here the most of your career. Because that then is going to mean the La Liga, the quality is just going to be poor, right? You're going to have poor play for most of the league, which is sad.
Yes, but again, La Liga just has that force, which is we have the two biggest clubs in the world. Like that's Madrid and Barcelona. So usually when those players are coming up, like you saw with Zubimendi, right? Arsenal and Sociedad reached an agreement during the Club World Cup, beginning of it. Zubimendi was waiting for Madrid to get kicked out, basically, and then see if Madrid are going to be interested in him. before making a move because he knew that we could be on a market for a midfielder. I would assume, just an assumption, Madrid told him no. We're not willing to pay that fee,
Right.
and we deem you a surplus, not a necessity. So pretty much he just settled for the Arsenal move. So basically, whatever La Liga is going to do, unfortunately, the smaller clubs are going to be bullied by Madrid and Barcelona taking their players. It's a historical thing. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of it. But Madrid and Barcelona are the first eye of where these players want to go.
Right. And then when they can't, then they go to Premier League.
When those two doors are closed, in terms of Barcelona, the door is closed because they simply do not have the money, don't generate enough revenue at the moment to be able to do that. And for Madrid, it's a different story where they just don't deem you as needed, even though Madrid wanted to be more Spanish-centric, which is why I was pushing for somebody like Nico Williams before he signed his contract extension and pretty much doubled his release clause. But that's about it. Nico wasn't looked only from Barca. Arsenal wanted him, a lot of clubs wanted him. His goals were clear. It's either going to be pretty much a Spanish club, which was Barcelona only interested in him at that time, or I'm saying athletic club. You also have that.
Yeah.
So La Liga, for as long as Barcelona and Madrid are going to do well, they're going to be fine. We have a problem if those two start to see a relative drop.
Yeah.
And that's something for them to think about.
Yeah, and particularly if, look, Madrid has the history, Barcelona has its own whatever level of shine that players want to go for. But ultimately, right, players do care about money. And there will become a point where a player's like, you know what, like Liverpool is not some also-ran club, right? They're very good. That is a good club. I would go play for them, right? Like, and so, Man U and those places are whatever. But but that's a good club. So I think that's just something to be mindful of as we go forward. Loconte,
it depends on the management, right? When there's a club like Madrid generating 1.5 billion, we have a Tebas interview like 2 years ago when he said that with a salary cap at the moment, Madrid can sign 3 Mbappes and they would be fine. So that tells you that Madrid have so much wiggle room with their structure to the point where they can navigate through it without a problem. They're one-on-one. They don't have any problem. Everything counts as surplus. They have so many assets, and those assets keep on growing with the stadium, with the growth, with the more money coming in, with the TV deals, with all of that. So
they manage their finances well, like certainly better than the Catalan neighbors to the north, right? Who clearly do not manage their finances well.
Like it's not even comparable, or even the Madrid neighbors, the other side of it.
Right. Speaking of. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. When is the Camp Nou going to be ready? Are they going to play at all in that stadium ever? Like, is that a thing?
I mean,
look,
everything that comes out of Laporta's mouth is just like when you ask his chick, how many guys have you dated? Just triple it. If he says 2, no, it's 6. If he says in 2 months, it's probably in 6 months. I mean, now apparently they applied to change the stadium, so now they're playing on their Johan Cruyff Stadium.
Yes.
I mean, we did that with Alfredo Di Stefano. We asked them to play first 3 games away because we wanted to make sure that our stadium is ready.
Right. But when we said it was ready, it was ready.
We're done.
Yes.
You played at the Bernabeu.
Correct.
These guys are playing at Johan Cruyff Stadium.
What can I say? I don't know what's happening up there. Folks, Loconte and I will be back tomorrow because we have Real Sociedad away in San Sebastian. What a lovely place that is, by the way.
Football's back.
Loconte mentioned the trepidation of going to an away stadium as a player. Yes. However, San Sebastian, beautiful. Lovely place to go from a scenic point of view. They won't have any time for that. They landed just a little while ago. They're in bed and getting ready for the match tomorrow. We'll be back post game. We'll be live within 5-10 minutes or so right after the end of that match, and we will be ready to go. Until next time, everybody. Again, thank you. Please subscribe to the channel, like, share it, comment. As you see, we answer. We bring it up on the show. We answer your questions on the show. So please go ahead and do that. And if you want to only listen to the audio again whenever you want, you can do that on Apple or Spotify. Until next time, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Have a great day.